If you're watching this video right now, chances are you're constantly presented with choices in your daily life. Convenient ones, light, medium, or dark roast, drive or ride hail, organic, non-GMO, both or neither. Why? The more leisure time you have, even a couple minutes to watch this video, the more options there are available to you. This hyper-personalization is woven into the fabric of affluent Western society. Upon reflection, you might see this as materialistic, shallow, and there's certainly an argument for that. But personalization doesn't have to be a bad thing. There are personal trainers, personal therapists, and as of recently, even personalized medicine. Another area of customization is in the educational realm, personalized learning, which is basically shaping the subject matter to fit the unique needs of the learner. It's hard to trace a detailed history here, because you could call a lot of different educational approaches personalized. But the kind we're thinking about started in the 1960s and 70s with the rise of electronic computers. Donald Bidzer at the University of Illinois Champaign-Urbana created Plato, the first computer-assisted instruction system, which offered courses in everything from mathematics to music, even Esperanto. Then in the 80s came intelligent tutoring systems, where computers were able to give students immediate feedback, with correct answers rewarded and incorrect answers prompting additional practice trials. An approach inspired by psychologist B.F. Skinner's behaviorism. Now, let's fast forward to roughly today. Many researchers have studied the effectiveness of tech-aided personalized learning to increase student performance on high-stakes exams and increase grades and graduation rates, all of which have shown promise to varying degrees. Maybe the most well-known study on personalized learning to date was done by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, together with the Rand Corporation, between 2013 and 2015. They tracked 11,000 students at 62 schools to find out whether the personalized learning students would fare any better in math and reading than students following traditional instruction. The results showed that personalized learning had positive effects on math and reading for most schools in the study. Scores increased considerably relative to the national average, and the lowest performing students made substantial gains relative to their peers. All in all, the results were promising. But let's be clear, this doesn't mean that tech-aided personalized learning is the utopian answer for education or for learning in general. It goes without saying that there are countless highly impactful things students can do in school without a screen in front of them. But one thing that technology does well that humans struggle with is collecting data. When participating teachers in the Gates study were surveyed, a majority of them reported receiving all sorts of data on a weekly basis, where individual students were succeeding where they needed extra help, as well as data about their attitudes and behaviors. Curiously, more than 50% of teachers also admitted that although they had a bunch of data, they could have used some extra help figuring out exactly what to do with it. Now, 10 years later, intelligent tutoring systems can give teachers more well-substantiated options for how to progress forward in a lesson. Don't worry, nobody here is advocating for fully autonomous robot teachers, not anytime soon. So if this kind of tech-aided, data-driven approach to U.S. education was able to boost math and reading skills in underperforming students most, how might it do in middle-income or lower-income countries? The largest meta-analysis ever done on the subject shows encouraging results. The study, published in the British Journal of Educational Technology, included more than 53,000 learners from low or middle-income countries and concluded that tech-assisted personalized learning had a moderate positive effect on math and literacy outcomes compared to the control. Moderate may not give you that wow factor, but when you consider the amount of students in the study, it kind of says a lot. I know what you're thinking. What about cost? The implementation of these kinds of learning setups in classrooms can vary greatly. Do you need devices? Just the program? Do you have a steady internet connection? Or are you on an electrical grid at all? Some researchers think that implementing a standard piece of personalized learning software for middle grades at an after-school program in urban India, for example, would cost about $15 a month per student, with an attendance rate a little over 50%. Other experts, though, say that the cost per learner could be as low as $1 if implemented with a few thousand students. Crunching the numbers is important, especially when trying to help those in economically depressed circumstances, even if we're doing so with imperfect information. The philosopher Will MacAskill has spoken about the play bump in this regard. An idiosyncratic device set up in rural African villages with a dual purpose: children's recreation and water supply. Water is pumped out as children spin, or at least that was the intention. It worked terribly. It was costly, needed constant maintenance, and it was difficult to operate, especially when no kids were playing on it. The bottom line is that its engineers and advocates failed to do their research on the device's efficiency. Nevertheless, it received enormous publicity, even from the likes of Bill Clinton, because it had the facade of altruism, creativity, and inspiration. It can't help but be tempting to see this in the educational realm, too. There are all sorts of things that sound good in theory, but just don't add up in practice. See the whole reading approach, for example, an alternative to phonics. So, what kind of educational approaches should be implemented in schools? We're not selling any snake oil here. There's no miracle prescription. A cop-out answer, I know, but it depends. What we do know is that fundamental educational skills increase people's standards of living. According to UNESCO, if all students in low-income countries left school with basic literacy skills, about 171 million people would be lifted out of extreme poverty. Yes, let's have students explore their creativity with expansive art projects. Let's encourage them to ask probing philosophical questions and have them work through critical problems with their peers. But let's also not forget the boring, immediately utilitarian stuff. The stuff that's easier to measure and track quantitatively. Tech can at least help with that. Whoever wants to help implement more tech-based personalized learning methods in low and middle-income countries should make it a priority to get to know the unique needs, attitudes, and preferences of teachers and learners there. There's a lot of evidence that intelligent tutoring systems work, and we should definitely lean into that. After all, though, they're just tools, and without careful forethought, they could easily repeat the failings of the play pump. The people in the communities weren't given a choice about what kind of water pump they would use, nor were they even provided adequate information about it. And that's a massive problem. For the time being, it doesn't matter how smart the technology is. If it's not put into practice with a constant dialogue between objective metrics and lived experience, it'll waste its time up in the cloud. The thing is, though, down to earth is where we need tech the most. Thanks for watching the first episode by Sight from Byte. For more stories on the merging of learning, thinking, technology, and society, click subscribe